Each of us is a human being carrying the entire human project. And probably the wisest thing ever said about the shadow was uttered by the Roman playwright Terrence 21 centuries ago, who said, "Nothing human is alien to me." Now, that's a profound statement because it means that when I'm quick to judge someone else, I'm ignoring my human capacity for the same thing. And possibly the fact that I've already enacted something of the same sort without being able to own it or take responsibility for it. So, in a generic way, the shadow represents those parts of me, or collectively those parts of my organizations or affiliations that, when brought to consciousness, I find troubling, disturbing, intimidating, contrary to my values. In other words, no one particularly wants to own their aggressive, impulsive side, or their jealous, or their dependent side. And yet, they're part of us. That's part of our humanity. We all have them. And so, again, it's easy to see the flaw in my neighbor and ignore it in myself. And Jung noted that wherever we're particularly grinding away at someone else, it's often because they embody our shadow. We wish to repudiate it. And so I disown in you what I haven't been able to see within myself. Now, the shadow is not synonymous with evil, though evil can come from that part of ourselves. So you have to ask yourself why periodically good people do terrible things, or civilized nations descend into barbarism and atrocity. And you have to realize that those energies are at work in the underground and in the unconscious collectively as well as individually. And there's also the positive shadow, those parts of me that are summonses to me, which I find troubling and intimidating. Like, there's a part of me that would prefer not to have to grow up. Because if I have to be a grown-up, then I'm wholly responsible for what I do and my behaviors and my consequences. And while I might accept that principle in theory, in practice, that could be very awkward and very difficult and very challenging. So we talk about the positive shadow at times being, for example, the natural spontaneity that was there in the child, the creativity, the joyfulness of a child that gets left behind. When Jesus said you cannot enter the kingdom again except as a child, I think what he was talking about there is the recovery of that original sense of wonder, which gets knocked about and dulled by repetition and prohibition and so forth. And so part of our shadow is the richest part of our personality. And, as Jung said, a shadowless person becomes a superficial person. A shadowless person is a person who usually becomes an emotional chameleon, adaptive to the environment all the time, trying to always fit in. But in doing so, loses contact with the vitality of the soul. There's tremendous energy in the shadow. When Blake said Milton was of the devil's party, though he knew it not, he was saying, look, in Paradise Lost, the character that got all the good lines was not God or not the humans. It was Satan who got all the good lines. That's the energy of the shadow. And of course, we disown the shadow by splitting it off and seeing it in those people over there or in a satanic figure, rather than saying all of that is part of the human project. Hence, Terrence saying, nothing human is alien to me. If I can accept that in myself, then I realize I've got a lot of work to do to own these parts of myself, to pull them off of people, to be accountable for them, and find less to blame in my neighbor.